This coffee's so good today. I dream of one day where all of us could just go out and have coffee because we actually receive full benefit from our contribution to society. So normal social coffee is just the thing everybody does because everybody has plenty of money to go out, have a cup of coffee, and talk to their neighbors. So, with that in mind, let me tell you about a story. It happened about 20 years ago when I was 19. I had finally gotten a good job with the school district, with all the benefits, and I was really inspired by this new job. It was full of energy. The world was opening up to me. It was great. I had even bought my first house. But I started to notice something pretty quick with the guys I worked with, the ones that were about to retire. These guys I worked with that were about to retire would talk about how much they deserved this retirement. A life where they didn't have to work anymore, where they could spend the rest of their days enjoying life in old age. Everyone treated it like it was a natural end game, like it was a force of gravity, something you don't question. And why would I? I was only 19 years old, and these guys were like wizards to me. But the moment I started to understand this path, a tension built up inside of me, a visceral tension I couldn't describe. It had no name. I had never encountered this feeling before, and I didn't have the language to verbalize it. So I didn't really give much attention to these feelings. I mean, I must have been thinking, oh, this is just how it works. It felt like my concept of an uncertain future was being consumed by certainty. And that certainty pointed in a certain direction. The direction that one day I will no longer be a useful person in society. After encountering this feeling enough times for enough years, I kind of forgot about it. But the feeling was still there. I just forgot why I had that feeling. Like so many feelings a lot of us have, when we don't address them, they kind of fade into abstraction. So our culture has this strange habit of presenting an empty summit as the ultimate prize. As if after a lifetime of striving, building, learning, creating, caring, and becoming, the reward is an absence, a void, a step back into obscurity. And in our society, it is the normal thing to want to do. It's sold as liberation, but the undertone is defeat, a concession. The moment society stops extracting from you, it stops acknowledging you too. That's the quiet truth behind these polished speeches and the Rolexes. It's that we don't have a prosperity goal, we have an expiration goal. People sense this unconsciously. Everyone senses this contradiction before it fades into irrelevance, but they rarely articulate it because it's wrapped in cultural praise and marketed as success. So instead of confronting the emptiness of this pinnacle, this goal of retirement, people do their best to try and believe in it. They tell themselves that they should want it because everybody else does, that they should look forward to it, that they should accept the idea that their skills, passions, and creativity were only valued for a particular slice of their lifetime. Every time a person accepts this narrative, a part of them goes quiet. A part of them dies. A part of them is smothered under the pressure to pretend this lie is noble but there is a feudal echo beneath our modern lives. This whole perspective we have on retirement is just a polished version of an older system that came before us, before our country. You see, because in a feudal society, when there were kings and queens, a person's value was tied to how much they can be extracted from. How much could be extracted from their labor, their obedience, and their production. Once they were no longer extractable, they were just pushed to the edges of the community, kept out of sight, treated as spent. I mean, we pretended like we've evolved, but the emotional structure is identical to a feudal system. Your value is still measured by your output. Your identity is still tethered to productivity. Your worth is still conditional. You can feel it when you hear people talk about their lives. They're not aiming for fulfillment. They're all aiming for escape. Not an escape from effort, but an escape from a life of being extracted from. Now, this is a lie everybody knows, but nobody names. Deep down, everybody recognizes the absurdity. They might not say it out loud, but they feel the tension. Everyone knows they were born with creative instincts. Everyone knows their contributions aren't limited to the tasks that someone can profit from. They know this pinnacle of retirement is hollow. They know that the narrative of fading usefulness is a cultural invention, not a human truth. And because we all feel this, we're all a bit sickened by it. Even the people that claim to want that endgame. Even the people that pretend it's natural. Somewhere inside, the mind whispers, what am I going to do when I get there and no longer have to do anything anymore? Who will I be then? It is the part of us refusing to die quietly, to walk away forever into uncertainty after a life of certainty. But we don't have to keep swallowing it. The beauty of instinct is that it can rebel. The narrative can be spat out. The inherited lie can be rejected the same way the body rejects poison. If we step to the side of the illusion, we can imagine a different path. A path where creativity becomes lifelong. Autonomy becomes the true measure of success. Where time becomes meaningful without anyone trying to monetize it. And dignity stops being conditional on output. A system where a person doesn't expire when their labor is no longer profitable to someone else. That would be a society that actually produced prosperous outcomes, where nobody would chase an empty pinnacle. They would simply live, working when inspired, learning when curious, reflecting when needed, and resting without shame. They would know that they contribute by existing, imagining, teaching, creating, caring, and thinking. They would know that their worth is not bound to time. That is the part that everyone feels but can't articulate. The part that recoils when the lie is handed to them. The part that wants to live the full arc of life, not a truncated arc, rammed into us like an inherited and necessary butt plug. If we want to spit out the lie completely, if we want to reclaim a society where people don't expire, where their worth doesn't hinge on extractability, we can just heal the psychology. We have to uproot the structure that keeps manufacturing the lie in the first place. Because this feudal ghost is not poetic. It's institutional. It's hard-coded into the machinery of our economy, our taxes, our laws, and our politics. It lingers like a ghost that doesn't go away, follows you everywhere, still pulling levers that don't belong in the modern world. And the audience, us, pretends it's normal. because the script is old enough that everyone forgot who wrote it. So to reclaim prosperous outcomes, we have to rewrite the script. We have to pull the ghost out by its roots. And the foundation of that extraction is unearned wealth. The entire extractive economy is built on one thing: ownership of value that nobody created. Those are land, mineral rights, natural resources, broadcasting, urban location value. All the things that existed long before any investor, corporation, or government staked their claim. We call these things investments, but they are not investments. These are unearned gains, inherited privilege masquerading as productivity. And because most of us treat unearned wealth as sacred property, everything else, income taxes, payroll taxes, sales taxes, and user fees, gets piled on to the actual creators. The workers, the builders, the teachers, the innovators, and of course the small business owners. This is the oldest civilization trick in the book. Tax the serfs, reward the lords. But a single surgical transition, taxing unearned wealth instead of labor, would detonate the foundation that keeps this ghost alive. It would strip that unearned privilege, and the whole hierarchy would melt away like an ice cube on a hot day. Because the hierarchy is the privilege, without it, we extract from hoarding instead of the economic contributors. A land value tax, resource rent, and commons-based revenue system doesn't just fix the economy. It removes the economic scaffolding that has allowed exploitation to regenerate generation after generation. It chokes off the oxygen supply to this feudal ghost. Now, to get there, we need to rebuild the political architecture by establishing neighborhood unions. Because just changing the economics isn't enough. Our political architecture is also feudal. Representatives over people, gatekeepers, middlemen, professional power brokers. Those are simply modern lords with different costumes. They claim to speak for us, yet the system is designed so we can't speak for ourselves. So the remedy isn't to beg these representatives to behave. It is to make their positions obsolete. Decentralized neighborhood level voter unions, which is the smallest meaningful unit of civic life, can become the organisms that actually govern, not with symbolic town halls, not with advisory committees, but with real decision-making bodies that deliberate collectively, that elect temporary issue-based delegates, who we can recall instantly when trust fades, and whose influence is based on support, not rank. No permanent class, no career rulers, just fluid groups aligned around issues, not personalities, where the issue leads, without the narrow bias of any individual person. That's when political power becomes a dynamic market of ideas, instead of a static hierarchy of individuals. This is how you transition towards a direct democracy that doesn't drown under its own weight. Distributed, self-organizing, highly local, yet it can coordinate globally when needed. You eliminate the representative over people and replace it with solutions over issues, which expands and contracts based on participation. No more political thrones. No more political dynasties. No more professional rulers managing the population like it's livestock. And our legal system is just as archaic as the political one, seeped in rituals, jargon, gatekeeping, and profit. It's an institution where old white men enrich themselves by controlling access to fairness. Justice today is a fucking luxury product. A prosperous system would stop treating justice like a fucking marketplace and start treating it like a public utility. It would be accessible to all. It'd be driven by mediation and restorative outcomes. It would be transparent to relative participants. It would be stripped of parasitic fees. It would be focused on resolution, not punishment. And it would be impossible to corner and commodify. Right now, the legal world is a relic. Robes, rituals, temples of authority. Beneath the veneer, they enforce the same feudal logic. Protect property owners, punish the powerless. A modern legal system would invert that logic. It would be the operating system of fairness, not a fucking revenue stream for the elites. There is a future beyond the extraction. If we dismantle the economic privilege, democratize political decision making, and modernize justice, the whole society switches from extraction to participation, where people don't hoard, people don't fear irrelevance, people don't chase empty pinnacles, people don't dream of escape because there's nothing to escape from. Then we enter into a cycle of prosperity humanity hasn't seen in over 1,000 years. At least not outside small communities hidden from the empire, tucked away from the grasp of these extractive systems. Those rare pockets of egalitarian life were anomalies in history, but they do prove something important. Egalitarian flourishing is not a utopia. It's simply what happens when the extraction stops. Imagine an entire society built on that principle rather than just a village. A world where creativity is lifelong, rest is dignified, autonomy is normal, contribution is human, and worth isn't conditional. And where the feudal ghost finally disappears, that world isn't just possible, it's overdue. We need a future worthy of us, and we stand at a threshold, not a metaphorical one, a genuine turning point, where the old machinery of feudal extraction is starting to break down, and we can all see it. It's desperately trying to keep its grip on a world that no longer needs it. The ghost has ruled long enough. Its foundations are cracking. And what happens next depends entirely on whether we recognize the moment for what it really is. We can build something better, something freer, something dignified, something that aligns with who we are, not who the old structures needed us to be. But none of that happens if we remain divided, fractured, distracted, pitted against each other, like rival tribes in a game none of us designed. Division is the last weapon of the old world. And unity, decentralized, voluntary, participatory unity, is the beginning of the new one. Because when people come together horizontally rather than vertically, progress stops being hoarded and starts being shared. How we grow a society stops being extractive and becomes regenerative. The markets stop being rigged arenas and become genuinely free exchanges of value. Politics stops being a contest of rulers and becomes a collective expression of self-governance. Side note, by the way, we're gonna save a lot of time not paying attention to this bullshit politics. This isn't a utopian dream. It's simply humanity unchained. A society where contribution comes from passion, not coercion. Where freedom is generative, not isolating. Where prosperity isn't the privilege of a few, but the outcome of the majority. where the dignity of rest, the joy of creation, and the right to autonomy are not seen as luxuries, but as birthrights. And as we build this, we do it with an understanding that each of us, everyone, is indispensable, not because of what we produce, or what we own, or what someone extracts from us, but because we carry the spark that has driven every leap forward in human history. The desire to create, to grow, to belong, to be free. My brothers, my sisters, my fellow travelers in this strange and beautiful world, we don't have to inherit the chains handed down to us. We do not have to accept a future scripted by old hierarchies. We do not have to divide ourselves for the entertainment of those who profit from our division, from our fragmentation. We are more than that. We always were. So let us set progress free. Let us set creativity free. Let us set each other free. Let us gather the courage to imagine a world where the path forward is ours. Not imposed, not extracted, not rationed, but shared in the space of decentralized unity. Together, we can build a society where life continues, familiar, recognizable, but on a better path, a kinder path, a path that honors the best in us, a path where the world finally reflects the beauty of the people that live in it. The rest of your life begins right now. Resist the division, and together, only together, we can step into a future worthy of all of us. Thanks for watching my video. See you tomorrow. Peace.